Welcome to Unit 8 of Block 3 of International Marketing, International Product and Brand Management. So, already we have discussed regarding the different aspects of international marketing, where we have come across with all environmental aspects, political, economic, social, and technological environment. Also, we try to understand how there is a change in the product, there is a change in the political, there is a change in the economic environment is influencing our decisions. Also, in the meantime, also we have discussed regarding the different institutions who are there to frame rules and regulations and policies for the international business. Also, we have discussed about the different aspects of international marketing in our previous sessions. So today we are going to have a discussion on the international product and brand management. International product and brand management are both are important aspects of any international marketing. So if you talk about that, because if your product is a suitable one, if a product is a really good one, then exactly you will be getting success in the international market. Product and brands have pivotal role in bringing success for the international marketers. So for that reason, we have to understand which kind of product you have to bring, what kind of brands you have to offer to the market, so that your product and brands will be successful, and meantime also you will be getting a lot of business from the other countries. So that is why the companies are focusing more on the product development, brand development, to remain relevant in the marketplace, to remain relevant in the international market. For that reason, we have to understand the marketing mix of the marketing management, which includes the product, price, place, and promotions. So when you talk about the product has to you have to talk about the what are the features you have to include to the product, what kind of product you have to bring to the product. So these what kind of distribution channels you have to bring for the product, what kind of price you'll be keeping for the product, all aspect we will be discussing during the whole class. The first one is talking about the decision regarding the product, price, place, promotions, and distribution channels are the decisions about the elements of the marketing mix. Yes, already we have talked about that. Also, the international companies must develop product and brand policies and strategies that are sensitive to market needs. If the product is not a sensible one, take the case of Nokia. Nokia is one of the successful company operating across the world and has had the highest market share. But what happened? The company could not able to sustain in the market, could not able to compete in the market because of the reason is they did not bring the Android technology to the market. When the market requirement was Android technology, they did not bring the Android technology to market. That is why they did not remain relevant in the marketplace. So the marketer, if you wanted to remain relevant or you wanted to be successful, the product and brand policies has to be has to align with the market needs, competitions, the company's objective and resources on a global scale, not in the local scale. Here we are talking about the global scale because your market is not limited to the local markets, your market is all global scale. So whether you are able to success in the global scale, that is why you have to think about a product which will be acceptable by the global market, which will be has a relevant to the global market. It also has remain competitive in the global market. That is why we have to understand the importance of product and brand policies. So defining the product is exactly product can be defined as any anything which can be offered, anything tangible or intangible, which is having some attributes that create value for the customers. So if you are able to create value for the customer, and it includes a bundle of utilities. If the product is having some tangible and intangible attributes and collectively creates value for the customers or buyers, then exactly it is a product. Product can be categorized into different class. Product can be a convenience product can be a shopping goods, product can be specialty goods or durable goods. When you talk about the convenience goods are those goods which are available in the local nearby stores. That is because of the time and place it is available nearby. Where shopping goods are the goods which are you are putting shopping efforts, you are comparison shopping. You are going from one store to another store when you deciding what shopping goods. And which is a specialty goods, then exactly the specialty goods are those goods which are purchase in once in a 6 months, once in a whole year, and you spend a lot of money on this product. So product is anything which can be offered to the market, which is has been tangible and intangible attribute, that is known as the product, which satisfies a bundle of utilities of the customer. Second one is product can be convenience, product can be shopping, product can be regular, non-regular industrial goods. Global brands are based on the same strategic principles, same positioning, same marketing, but there may be change in the message and the image of the projections. Why? Because reason being is if your product, if you wanted to position your product in the other markets, or you wanted to change its marketing mix in the other market, then your product will remain relevant. Because if you're talking about the product, I talk about that the US companies are more successful as compared to the European companies as far as Indian market is concerned. Why? The reason is US market have Indianized product. McDonald, your Burger King, they even if they are successful in the other market, when they entered the Indian market, they thought that is Indian market is exactly, even if other markets we are offering non-veg items, chicken items, but here in India you have to offer both non-veg and veg items. That is why they introduce veg, that is paneer tikka. That is why because they know Indian customer have wanted to have both options. Also, another example, when you wanted to be successful in Indian market, even if you are success in other market, you have to think about what is the requirement of the Indian market. Even if you have to offer pizza, also you have to offer puri, or you have to offer the veg thali. If you are not offering that, then exactly you cannot become successful. That is the case of, in case of your McDonald. In the early years, McDonald failed in the Indian market because they offered some product which includes beef. That is why that was not acceptable by the Indian customers. So later on, they decided even if we wanted to be successful in Indian market, you have to bring some Indianized product. They introduced veg thali and veg tadka, then veg paneer tikka kind of items they included, then that becomes successful. From this point, from we can talk about global brands may be based on the same strategic principles or same positioning and same marketing mix, but there may be a change in the message and image projections. You have to change your positioning, you have to change your image. Another example here I'm citing, that is exactly if your product, you are positioning the same product in the other market or developed market is a necessity item, but in case of Indian market, in the developing countries, you have to position it as a luxury item, because we consider refrigerator, washing machine as luxury items. So whereas in developed world these products are considered as necessity items. So if you wanted to enter to the Indian market or any developing countries, you have to position that product as a luxury one. If you wanted to change the luxury one, then exactly you will be successful. That is why your marketing mix, even if it remains same, positioning remains same, but there will be a change in the main message or image of the projections. You have to change that one, then exactly you can remain relevant, you have remain successful in the Indian market or any other market wherever we wanted to do business. The next is, when you talk about the mostly we have categorized the product into what? Now we have categorized the product into local, that we have categorized in convenience goods. We have categorized convenience goods, shopping goods, and durable and non-durable or industrial good. But here in some international marketing, we are defining the product, we are classifying the product as local products, international product, global products, and into the three, that is local products, international products, and local products. In case of local products or local brands, what happened is it's mostly the market for the local brands is the domestic one. The market is the domestic one, the national market. The that is the sometimes an international company creates local products or brands to effort to cater the needs and preferences of the particular markets. Talking take the example of Calgary brand of atta. Kargil brand of Bata because we have a war with Pakistan as far as Kargil war is concerned. We know Kargil, we have a emotional attachment. That is why the company decided to launch a brand, Kargil brand in the Indian market because the name is we have already know about the name, we have awareness about the name. That is why the company becomes successful because they have wanted to launch a local product. So here one submission is exactly mostly local product, local brands. That is their market is the domestic one. The national market is there. International company, if you wanted to be successful or you wanted to be remain relevant, you have to launch some products, local brands, which are which are in align with the needs and preferences of the particular local markets. Then exactly you can get the success. When you talk about the international brands or international products, that is operating several markets in a particular region. Several markets. Your market is not the local market, your market is not a domestic one. The several markets you are offering the product. For example, experience General Motors when the General Motors in other markets they introduce because you talk about the Indian market, even if General Motors is successful in US market and other markets, but when it comes to automobile, Indian customer prefers a small car or family car. Even you do have presence in the luxury segment or you do have presence in the SUV segment, sports utility segment, but when you come to India, when you come to developing countries, you have to change your positioning. You have to change the image. You have to introduce some small cars, or you have to launch some family cars. Then exactly you can able to success in the same here. We talk about the experience with General Motors with Corsa brand model in 90s provide a case study of how international products or brands can be taken into global. That is here the what exactly company does. Company General Motors exactly did that is they introduce local products, local models in the different markets. Even if they are successful in the US market, in other markets, but when they enter to the other market, they introduce different models for that particular market. Then they have become the successful. When you talk about the global products meets the needs wants of the global market is global product, that is exactly the global brand products are they always the market is for them is the global market. That is company talk about the Sony, iPhone. The market is the whole market is their market. That is why they bring the product which suit to the global markets. All world regions have the access to a true global product. A global brand has the same name and in some instances similar image position throughout the world. Here that is exactly you are we'll be talking about that. You have a strategy of standardized strategy. Same product, same price, same promotion, everything will remain same when you are talking about the global product. Your global product will be remain same when you are introducing the product in the other markets. Three kinds of things we we get to know: local brands, international products, and local products, brand products. When you talk about the local product is limited to local markets and domestic markets. You have to bring some local flavors. International company has to bring some local flavors to cater to the needs and preferences of the local market. If they wanted to introduce that, then exactly they will remain relevant, they will remain successful, they will get success. International products, they have different products, brands in different markets, not the same kinds. They have different products, different brands, not in the same different markets. Like example, we are talking about General Motors with Corsa model is successful in other markets. How? That is because they have introduced different models in different markets. That is why they become successful. When you talk about the global market, their product is remains same throughout the globe. There is no difference in their product. The name remains same. That is example here I cited is Sony, your iPhone. That is they have the same kind of product, same kind of offering throughout the market. Next, we talk about the international product life cycle. When you talk about the international product life cycle, before I proceed for the international product life cycle, let me tell you what is the product life cycle. Product life cycle is the life cycle that is the stages the product has to pass through. The product life cycle has four stages: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Each stage has its own strategy, it says has its own limitations. That is why product life cycle, when we talk about, it has to pass through a different stage of the product life cycle, keeping in mind the sales and the time. The introduction stage there is a low sales, there is a low sales, but in the growth stage there is a high growth, but in the mature stage the sales remain stagnant, but in case of decline stage sales started decline. So that is why in different stages of the product life cycle the sales remains different across the product life cycle. That is why your strategy will be different at different stages of the product life cycle. But whereas international product life cycle is based on the theory, the product life cycle is based on the theory of sales and time. But here, international product life cycle is based on the innovations. So innovation is the main criteria, main base on which international product life cycle is based. So that is why there are different stages of the international product life cycle. Local innovation stage, overseas innovations, maturity, worldwide imitations, and reversal. What happens here? That is exact. The countries, developed countries, they introduce the product in the initial stage, where the spend on research and development will be higher. That is why the market for them remains their nearby markets, the developed ones. So later on, that is exactly they enter into other markets. Then that is where they have to achieve economies of they increase the productions. The production, that is where the product becomes a generic product across all the world. Then later on, the countries who are the innovator of the product, they become the importer of the product. I think I have clarified. That is, international product is based on the innovations or research and development. Basically, international product life cycle starts with the developed countries. Developed countries, because developed countries they start producing a product, producing a brand, that is, and targeting the nearby countries who are capable can afford the product, because the research and development expenditure is too high. That is why the target markets remains the nearby market. Then they later on, the next stage they they go for the other markets where they expand their business. Then that is exactly then when once the product remains in the maturity stage, the sales declines. Then what happens, when the worldwide the product becomes a generic one, the producer of the product, the developed world, they become the importer of the product. That is known as the international product life cycle. This is, you talk about the international product cycle action. The developed countries, they become the advanced nation, or developed countries, they become the exporter of the product. But later on, the LDC, least developing countries, they become the the exporter of the product. Initial countries, initially, once they become the exporters, once the product reaches the mature stage or the mature stage, the the advanced nations or developed countries, they become the importer of the product. So exactly, we talk about the different stages of the pattern of IPLC, international product life cycle. Innovating the country stage, where the production, other developed countries and middle income countries, they become the early importers. The less developed countries are late imports. That is exactly because they cannot, because on the basis of what? Because since the research and development expenditure is too high, the developed countries, less developed countries, LDC, less developed countries, they cannot afford this product. That is why they become the importers. Exports, as far as export is concerned, the developed countries, they become the production unit. Less developed countries, later on they become the production units when they become the generic one. Imports, exports large volume of declining to small volumes, exports small volume rising to large volumes. That about the developed countries, that is the other developed countries. That is the difference in one. That is mostly, that is in case of, so here I am just wanted to cite one example here. When it is a medicine or a aircraft like Boeing, Airbus, the companies, they used to spend more money on research and development. They become the innovators or producer of the product. They target the nearby countries as their markets. When the product prices remains high, then later on they start exporting the product to the developing or less developed countries. So once less developed countries they accept the product, then the technology becomes generic, the product becomes generic. That is why the product becomes a there is a huge production in the developing countries. So when there is a huge rise in the say volume of the rising volume of product in the in the less developed countries, what happens now, they start producing, they achieve economies of scale. Once they achieve economies of scale, then they start exporting the product to the developed countries. So, what are the implications? PLC implications, international product like implications. Innovative products increase the international firm staying power. If you are a innovator or if you are a producer of the product, if you are spending on research and development, then you will become you will remain in the power. The marketers whose products face declining sales in one foreign market may find another foreign market with encouraging demand for their product. Here we'll be discussing, or this is exactly the same thing is happening here. Exactly, China is dumping the products in the Indian market. They are expanding, they are going for the developing countries because they know if the product health is not acceptable in Indian market, that is our market will be different one where it can be in the in introduction stage. Same thing here, suppose Maruti is not able to get sales, the sales is declining, they feel Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan or Nepal can be their markets. The marketer whose products face declining stage in one foreign market may find another foreign market with encouraging demand for their product. Take the example of Procter and Gamble P&G. P&G has introduced a Tide detergent in the year 1970 in US market, but same Tide detergent they introduced in the Indian market in the late 2000. Because of why? Because when the product held in their markets, they found Indian market is encouraging demand. So that is why they introduced this product in the Indian market. Innovative products vary significant export potentials. Significant carry significant export. Yes, definitely. Where the product is new, that is you're talking about the new technology, new research and development. That is why the product has to carry a significant export potential in other countries. That is why talk about the implication of PLC implications. When you talk about the international product policy, what are the policy? Because we have talked about that the the product policy, brand policy has to be decided. That is why we are talking about the international product policy. When you talk about the international product policy, we talk about product communication extensions. Not only nothing you are doing, only you are extending the communications one. It is a low-cost strategy, may really take the same product and communication strategy in other market. It can be risky if misjudgment are made. You are not changing in the marketing mix, you are only changing in the communication strategy. When you are changing the communication strategy, you are changing in the promotional part. Suppose you are promoting the product in the other market is a for luxury brands, but here you are promoting the same product as a economic one. So that is only changing the communications. That is can enter to the other markets, but it is a risky one. If the people feel this product is not a no, that is exactly not a right one, quality one, they may start rejecting the product. Extend product communication adoptions. If the product basically fits the different need segments of the national market, it made adjustment in the communications one only. Again, it is a low cost strategy, but different product function have to be identified a suitable communication mix developed. That is, you are only extending the product because the product was that is you had only one product Dettol that was known for only hygienic, but now you know the brand like Santro, the only brand from Hyundai, which is a foreign company, Korean company. The company only repositioned, modified the product, and the same product could able to survive in the Indian market for 15 years. Still, it is there. Still, they have repositioned the product as a different product, and but that is what low cost strategy. The package price is lowest, but different product functions. Only they have modified the product functions, and still that product is able to survive, sustain in the Indian market. Reason being, That is the low cost, and that is the approach is extended product and communication adaptations. So product adaptations, communication extension. You are talking about the two aspects: product adaptations and communication extensions. The product adaptation, the product is adapted to fit usage condition, but the communication remains the same. So exactly, you're talking about that the product remains the same, but you are only changing the consumption. The assumption is that the product will serve the same function in one market under different usage conditions. The condition for the product usage will be different, but that is exactly the product can be same product can be launched in the other market. I talk about that. When you are talking about the refrigerator or washing machines, the company like Haier, the company like LG, Samsung, they introducing the same product, but they try to communicate it's a luxury one. They try to communicate a different product in the other market. That is why you talk about they are going for the product adaptations and communication extensions. Product adaptations and communication. You are changing both. Product is new product altogether, and communication is altogether together. That is the last one to fit the particular market. That is exactly your adaptation process is not limited to product only or communication only. It is includes both product adaptations and communication adaptations. So that is why we talk about we have a four policies. We have four policies. One is product communication extension only. You are extending the communications one, that is known as the product communications. When you are talking about the extend product communication adaptations, product you are extending the new product and changing the communication one. In the next one case you are changing product adaptation and communication extensions, and the last one is you are changing both product adaptation and communication adaptations. Here just I wanted to submit one thing, that is exactly even if the product remains same, but if your communication strategy changes or if your communication channel product may work, product may get successful in other markets. Also, even if your even if the communication is the same communication, but if your product is changed, then that is also giving you or giving you a lot of success in the other market. That is why the have the policy of you have to see which one is required, whether product adaptation is required or communication adoption is required, which one is the requirement. Accordingly, you make your plan, then exactly you can become successful in the other markets. Then last one we talk about the product inventions. It requires it is a totally a new product altogether. You are not adaptations, you are not going for adaptations, you are going for a new product altogether, which is totally new product to be introduced as market required by the exclusive conditions of a national market. This could be an ideal strategy for an emerging economy due to new product development. So the cost may be high, but the returns are also very high. That is why you are going for the product inventions. You are going for the invention of new product altogether. That is the high policy or areas where you are working. That is, you talk about the I1 as far as the product policy is concerned. Then you are talking about the standardizations and adaptations. When you talk about the standardization, already we have talked about standardizations and adaptations. If the remains same, the strategy remains same across the globe, then we talk about the standardization strategy. If you are changing the product on the basis of the requirements of a particular country or requirements of a particular place, then exactly you are going for the adaptation strategy. Did you get the point? The point is here we are talking about if the product remains same, marketing mix remains same across the globe, then you talk about the standardizations. If it changes as per the requirement of the country, you talk about it is known as a adaptation strategy. So majority of the product decisions falls somewhere between standardization and adaptations. Changes in designs are subject to cultural pressures. The more culturally bound the product such as food and more adaptation is required. Yes, if it is food, if it is clothing, if it is food and clothing, it requires a lot of changes. So that is why you have to go for the adaptation strategy. But if the technology like Sony, iPhone, it does not require so many changes. So that is why it requires a standardization strategy. Companies like India, example I have cited here, like Food, Pizza Hut, and McDonald's already have talked about that. In the initial years, they failed, or Burger King initial years they failed. Start realizing where what went wrong with us. Then they decided to bring the product which is catering to the Indian households, Indian taste. That is why they launched masala tikka, burgers, and paneer pizza, which is suit to the Indian markets. That is exactly you are going for the adaptation strategy. That is exactly the difference between adaptation and standardization. Standardization is all about similarity in your strategy. Adaptations is changing your strategy as per the requirement of the country. That is when there is cultural change, when there is social change, you have to change your offerings. When there is you have to include the same product across all market, then that is known as the standardizations. So that is exactly we talk about what are the factors, that is talking when you were going for the standardization and process adaptations, what are the factors you have taken into considerations. That is exactly Indians in case of a factor customer orientations. Customer orientations. If the customer are not educated, if are launching some high-end products, high technology products, no, then exactly the product will not survive in the market. That is why the orientation, customer orientations, that you have to see whether the customer are educated, they are awareness about brand names. So if they are aware about the brand names, that is why India has become the hub for other companies. Why the reason being, now they have seen the Indian customers are evolving, their needs are also evolving, they require some luxury brands. So that is why the companies are also interested to launch new luxury brands, other brands in the market. So this is exactly talk about the customer orientation. Seeing that, what is that? Now that is the product range, size, brand name, label, package, color, use instructions. Indians, as far as technology is concerned, Indians always look for a product which is convenient for them. If the technology is not a convenient one, they won't accept that technology. Indians prefer a small tax. So if you're an international company, you have to bring small tax for the Indian market. So that is the implications. Stage of the market development, whether the product market is the introduction stage or growth stage or maturity stage or decline stage. If the product is the international stage, what happens in the introduction stage? That is that is you have to the product is not doing properly better. If the growth stage or maturity decline stage, so that is why the companies they used to send the product as a different one stage of the market development. Product form, packaging, product simplification, change in the tolerance, service after sales. That are the requirement as far as the product design is concerned. Legal considerations, even if a product is successful in other market, but you have to see whether there is a product is as any legal consideration in the other market. Brand name, mark, label, language, measurement unit, size, and packaging. Same, you have to communicate as far as the communication is concerned. You have to communicate in the local language. Then people can able to understand the language. They can go for the product. If that is exactly talking about the climate conditions and physical environment, that is you talk about. Also, we have talked about that. If you are talking about the terrain conditions, if the terrain conditions, you have to see what kind of tire you have to introduce for the cars. If it is the climate, it decides. If it is India, that is exactly the climate is hot climate, so people used to go for soft drinks. So people you have to introduce soft drinks here. So that is why the packaging protections, package size, product storage has to be there in case of your climatic conditions. That is the on that basis you have to design your product design, whether it will be standardized product or it is adaptations on the basis of customer orientations, stage of the market development, legal considerations, climate conditions, and physical environment that decides the standardization or adaptations. Next, we talk about the market planning, international product mix. When you talk about the product mix, that includes the length, breadth, or depth of the product with length, depth, and consistency. The product mix has to be with length, depth, and consistency. Suppose you take the example here, take the example of any FMCG company. They do have presence in like in what in case of detergent they have presence in toothpaste segment, they have presence in the soap segment. Three lines they do have. The three lines they do have product line is three: soap, detergent, and toothpaste. So what about soap? How many products are there in the soap? How many products are in detergent? That is all about the depth. If you take into account there are only launching 100 products or 50 products, total number of products they are offering to the market, that is known as the length. Only they are limited to only FMCG sectors or FMCD sectors, or in both the sectors. If they are only present in FMCG sectors, that shows that is they are maintaining the consistency. That is, if they have more presence both in FMCG and FMCD, they are not maintaining the consistency. So that is why we are talking about the international product mix. What are you below your product line? What products you will be introducing in the other markets? What will be the length? What will be the depth? And whether you will be maintaining that consistency. Company like HUL or P&G, they do not offer all the products in the Indian market because they know that this Indian market the customer cannot afford all the products. That is why they launched those products which are requirement of the Indian market. So that is why we have to take the decisions on the basis of the what should be our product width, should be the product length, what are the product depth, and what about the consistency. That keeping all my things we have to take into consideration. We have to decide the product mix. So that is why product mix is the combination of products offered by the marketers to the market is known as the product mix, which includes width, length, depth, and consistency. That is why we talk about the that is the corporate level. They decide the corporate resources, human resources, financial resources, production and other resources. They talk about the strategies all about target markets, market entry, segmentation, positioning, pricing, all comes under the marketing strategy. Then your product mix includes width, length, depth, and consistency, product promotion, and that is distributions, production economies, and economies of scale, R&D, all comes under the deciding your product. Then international operations, you're talking about the awareness level, competitions, then all comes under the our that is. So all points taken into consideration, that is your product mix. Product mix is all about the number of products you are offering to the market, has to be acceptable by the local markets. That before that, but you have to have a understanding of that is the how corporate level strategy is changing, how international marketing strategies that is changing the different aspect. That all comes under the product mix. So branding, when you talk about this, is all about the product one. When product is all about the product policy you have, the kind of products you are offering to the market, international product life cycle, all comes under the product policy or product mix. So product mix, we have come across what is product, what is product life cycle, what about the product mix, and what could be your product policy. Whether you are going for the communication extension or product extension, or you are modifying both product and the communication. That is exactly all comes under the product. When you talk about the branding part, the branding part has to see whether the brand is whatever the brand is you are developing, whether the brand is a local brand or it is a national brand or it is an international brand. So if it is a local brand, then exactly that is why the international company, when it enters to the other market, it has to compete with local brands, national brands, and international brands. So that is why the company, they used to change their positioning, they change their brand names, which suits. Just I talk about example I have given you. If the brand names remains like Nova, what happens? That is exactly, if it is Nova in India, it is okay. It is it will run successful. But if you talk about China, Nova means which does not move. If you launch a car on the name of Nova, that is which does not move. Chinese people don't accept that brand. So that is why you have to modify your brand name in each market. So that is why that is why you talk about whether to have a single global brand name, Whether you have a Coke or Apple, they are known as the global brands. The aim, the strategy, everything remains same across the globe. That is why they are known as the global brands. Modify the names as per the requirement of the market. Like Nescafe is instant in India, Nescafe Gold in Germany, Nescafe Gold Blend in United Kingdom. So wherever they go, they change their name. The company like before, it was Hindustan. Before it was Unilever. Now it is Unilever Limited. Now before that it was Hindustan Unilever. When they are in India, they have Hindustan Unilever. When they are in Pakistan, they have Pakistan Unilever. When they are Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka Unilever Limited. So they have different names in different markets. Whether to use separate product names as brand names or make use of the company name or combination of the two. That is exactly the company like ITC. When the ITC, they know ITC is all about India, do not have a favorable attitude towards tobacco products. If you give the name as tobacco, if you talk about the Indian tobacco company, people won't have a positive attitude. So that is why the company has not using the full name anywhere. You will see it is known as ITC. So that is example Levi's, Philips, ICI and Bata. That whether to use separate product names as brand names or make use of the company name or combination of the two. So if you see your product is a successful one, you are using the your brand is a successful one, your brand will be you are using the brand name. If your company is successful one, you are using the company name. Sometimes you are using both company and brand name. This example here I'm citing here is exactly General Motors. That is when they entered the Indian market, then they had the name is they came with a separate name altogether. This separate name altogether. That is because they know that is if you keep the same name in Indian market, our digital brand image will deteriorate. That is why they have kept the name as Chrysler. That is we talk about the use both the names or use one name or use that is your company name or brand name. Because if your company is successful, use company name. If your brand is successful, use brand name. If you wanted to use the both, then use the both the things. Whether to seek legal protections for the company's brand names, that exactly you have to think about that. So these are the things which comes under the branding initially. Then we are talking about the that is one of the another aspect is known as the CWO, country of origin. Country of origin is exactly where the company where the product is from. We have a favorable attitude for the CWO. When it is from Japan, we have a positive opinion, positive attitudes for Japan because Japan is known as technologically advanced. They are known as quality. So that is anything from that country that is known as a brand, that is known as a quality one. But anything is from China, anything is from Pakistan or any developing countries, we perceive that is not a quality one, that is not a. That is why CWO, country of origin, is matters for a brand. So one of the important elements of global marketing is the perception about attitude towards a particular country, often extended to product and brand known as the origin, originate in those countries. If it is from Italy, we have Italy, matlab that is exactly style. If it is from France, we talk about cheek. If it is from Germany, we talk about quality engineering. So we are categorizing on products that is on the basis of CWO, country of origins. These perception contribute the country of origin effect. They become part of the brand's image and contribute the brand equity. This is particularly true for automobiles, electronics, fashion, record music, and food products. If it is leather, we go for Italy leather. If it is watch, we go for the Italy. Because that is from the, if it is electronics, we go for Korean companies, we go for Japanese. So that is have a different perception altogether. They created that perception. So perception within can be negative. So you have to manage that. Then exactly it is from developing countries, you say the developing countries are not capable of producing the right products. That is why the product the products are not quality product. If it's from developed world, we say the product are the quality one. So that is we talk about the product origin. Country of origin is exactly what the origin the product that is the origin of the product, origin of the brand, origin of the company. If it is from a well-known well-known country, well-known company, well-known brand, then it has it. We are developing a positive and favorable attitude. If it is from a that is from a developing country, we have a negative perception about that country, about that brand. That is why we do not accept that product. Such perception attitude about a product can be positive or negative. So that is why we talk about that is Germany engineering. We talk about Italian is famous for style. French is synonymous with cheap. So that is why if anything offered by the Germany as far as automobile is concerned, we have a Volkswagen. People have a positive attitude about Volkswagen because of it is from Sony is from Japan. The origin is Sony is from Japan. That is talk about Hyundai from Korea. South Korea. That is why we have talked about these are the positive things. So if it is any that is from the what is the origin of the country, origin of the brand, origin of the company. So if it is that on that basis, that creates a perception with the mind of the customers. Then next we talk about the labeling. Talk about the labeling aspect. Labeling is not only express the contents of the product but also the promotional one. For example, suppose you talk about the example if it is baby food. Baby food you have seen in case of baby food in India, that is you have to put the picture of the baby in the front of the baby food, and where it is written mother's feeding is best for babies. But if you go to European countries, you put the picture of the baby on the front of the baby food, then it conveys the message of what it is a baby inside the packet. So that is why people do not take that product. People do not consider that product. That is why. Take the case of tobacco products. As far as tobacco product is concerned, we have a that is what we have a negative attitude. That is why the government policy is to you have to 85% of the space you have to allocate for whom? Allocate for that is smoking is injurious to health. You have to promote, you have to give space, 85% of the space to be giving to one negative aspect of the tobacco, using tobacco. So that is, if you see Indian market, the government has a stringent rule for labeling. How can you label the product? If it is, all food item, that is has to be get the permission from the Food Authority of India. If it is they're not getting any approval, then exactly it will be not. They cannot sell the product. So that is why labeling is also has an implications as far as international marketing is concerned. So each country has their own labeling style. So that is we have to understand that aspect. So labeling not only serves to express contents of the product but also a promotional one. For example, EU is now putting very stringent regulation in force of labeling, even to the extent that pesticide and insecticides used in horticulture produce have to be listed. You have to list out all that. That is the case of the Maggi. In case of Maggi from Nestle, what happened? One case, in in against Maggi, what happened? It has reowned its branding means Maggi has reworked. In case of pesticide, in case of Coca-Cola also suffered a lot because of the content, the pesticide content. That is why that is the companies are giving more importance to labeling. While the aspect of concerning the name of the manufacturer sales life, weight, content, ingredients, price handling, that varies from country to country. Already I talked about that. Your labeling, your where you put pictures, everything is different from country to country. The international marketing policy of the firm, the language of the host country, the level of literature of the people determine the graphics and visuals to be used in the product label. That is exactly you have to define, everything is defined as far as the country is concerned. If the country is either accepting that is baby foods or what are the things you have to written as far as the labeling is concerned, you have to mention in detail. So these things we talk about the labeling one. That is exactly we talk about the labeling, branding, packaging and labeling, that also comes under the branding one. So that is we talk about. Before we proceed further, let us discuss one by one. That is the which you have discussed again. We talk about the international product life cycle. We talk about the product. Initially, we have talked about the product has to be to get successful. The product depends on the company's success. Depends on the product and brand policies. If you have a right policy, right branding strategy, then you will be getting success. International company must develop product and brand strategy that are sensitive to market needs. Love that is exactly being an international marketer, being an international company, you have to be sensible enough. If your approach is not market oriented, you are not sensible enough, then very difficult to sustain in the other market. That is why the international marketer has to be sensible, has to have a market orientation approach. As per the trend, as per the demand, as per the requirement of the customers, as per the competitions, you have to change your policies, you have to introduce a new brand, or you have to bring something new to the market. Decisions regarding the product and price promotion distributions has to be changed, because it requires the kind of distributions. If it is a, like, if you're talking about developing country, the product has to be available everywhere. If it is a developed country, it has to be available in some places, not every places. That is, it's already defined. Then we talk about the product. What about the product? Product is something which can be offered to the market, where that is exactly the product is something that includes both tangible and intangible aspects, and it gives a bundle of benefits to the customers. Products physical properties are characterized same way the world over. Thus product can be classified as convenience, shopping goods, durables or non-durables. That is exactly, we have to categorize the product into three categories as far as our knowledge is concerned. But in case of an international product can be local products, local brands, international brands, and global brands. When it is local brand, they cater to the needs of the local market. When it is international brand, they cater to the international market, where the product policy, brand policy will be different for different countries. But when it is global brand, your brand has to be similar across the globe. That is three things you're talking about: the local brands, international brands, and global brands. International brand that caters local brand catering to the local markets. International brand catering to different countries. The marketing mix will be different. But when it is global brand, your product or brand has to be similar across the globe. Talk about the international product life cycle. International product life cycle is all about the life stages you go through. But here, in case of international product life cycle, what happens? The product the stages of the product life cycle differs with related to innovations. In the product innovation is there, the product in the innovation stage, then start exporting the other countries. In the technology becomes generic one, then the worldwide start imitating your product. Then what happens? You become the importer of the product. That is the things we talk about. So then we talk about the how. That is exactly, as far as discussion is concerned, the production early in the early stage, the developed company countries, they become the importers. Then the later, what happens? The less developed countries, they become the exporters. So that is exactly the difference in the international product life cycles. So already we talked about the implications of the international product life cycle. That is, innovation decides the staying power. The market whose product face declining stage in one market may find another market. We can go for the other markets. Innovation product carries significant export potentials. International product policy, you talk about product communication extension, product extended product communication adaptations. That is, their product adaptations and communication extensions, product adaptations and communication adaptations, and also product inventions. The approaches, you have 5 kind of policies. You can change in the product, or you can change in your communications, or you can change in both communications or product, or you can go for a new product altogether. That you have the 5 kind of policies you have to decide about the international policies as far as international product policy is concerned. Standardization and adaptations, when you have a similar kind of strategy for all the countries around the world, you have a standardization approach. When you change your strategy, change your policy with refer to the particular country where there is a requirement, that is known as adaptations. So adaptation is basically with the pressure of cultural, you are going for the adaptations, then you for the sake of that is the technology one, then you are going for the standardizations. If it is a food related item, clothing related items which requires which has a influence as far as culture is concerned, then you are going for the adaptation strategy. So that is when you talk about the adaptations or standardizations, we go for the customer orientations, stage of the market development, legal consideration, and climate. That India, that is people require a product because we are a hot country, we want cold soft drinks, we want cotton clothes. Then you have to change, you have to go for adaptations because if the same like winter clothes or winter clothes will be launched in the Indian market, then it will not be acceptable by the people. Then we talk about the product mix, which includes the product width, length, depth, and consistency. You have to decide, the top management has to decide what are the products you have to introduce. Then you have to introduce the same product, or you have to change the product, or what will be the length of the product, what will be the width, depth, and consistency. Then we have talked about the branding part. Branding part is also the success of any company depends on the brand part. So there is two options with you, whether you will be going for the same brand, or you are going for the company's brand, or you are using both. So that depends because your brand name that matters to the success of any company. So your brand name has to decide your future. When you talk about the country of origin is all about that is where the brand, where the company is origin. What is the origin? Like we talk about, it has a paramount importance because if it is from Germany, we talk about its quality or it's a quality engineering. If it is from Italy, we talk about the style. French, it is cheap. So that basis we talk categories. If the product is from where? If it is from Japan, it's a quality one. If it's from Korea, it's a quality one. If it's China, it's not a quality one. So that basis we are deciding about the products. What is the origin of the product. Then you talk about the labeling. Labeling decides about the that is differs from country to country, where you have to put in manufacturer, shelf life, weight, content, ingredients, price, and handling. Instructions vary as per the legal requirements. If the instruction does not remain same, it vary from country to country. So that is why you have to change your you have to understand the labeling aspect as far as the uh, your international product is concerned. Then we talk about the packaging one. Packaging one has to be the that is package simple may look, it influence in design, material shape. Packaging serves many purposes. It not only protects, it also promotes your brand. Size, unit type, weight, volume are very important in packaging. That is why the customer may decide the best form of packaging. The cost of packaging may always be the weightage against the advantage gained on from it. That is why we have to give importance to the packaging one. The packaging not only carry your product, it also communicates, it also promotes your brand. Then about the warranty period, the people look for the warranties and services, post purchase services they also want. That is exactly also requirement. You have to think about what kind of warranty, what kind of guarantee customers want. Then we talk about what kind of post purchase services they want. That is in case of the product. Then we last to talk about the let us talk about the company being marketed in India, analyze the nature of the adaptations. Like talking about the McDonald's, Pizza, how they have changed, the Burger King, how they have changed their products, pricing, and promotional aspect. That is exactly we have discussed already. And with these discussions, we think that is exactly I have clarified the product part. Product part is important, product and brand part is important, and it has paramount importance, and it will definitely bring success to the company if the company understands the product and brand part. Then finally, we are concluding this session. Thank you all.